From laid off to making over $1,000 my first month self-employed, I can guarantee you life won't turn out how you expect it to, but that might be a good thing. In this episode, we're gonna talk all about the pretty chaotic journey that led to me launching my business. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Clay, where we sip on some coffee, sculpt using polymer clay, and talk about a certain topic, kind of podcast-like style. And today we're gonna talk about how I started my small business. So my name is Emma and I run a small handmade polymer clay business called Tiny Bloom Studio out of my little New York apartment. And I just launched my shop back in November. The series of events that led up to me opening my business and creating an LLC was very unexpected, did not go to plan at all. But it happened and it worked out for the best. And so I also want to talk about chaos theory in this video. And technically chaos theory, it's a mathematical theory about how small acts or changes, sometimes seemingly very insignificant, can lead to a really big impact or change. So we're gonna talk about that because it definitely applies to me in my life, because I would never expect I'd be here right now, because there was a lot of tiny little series of events and honestly a lot of chaos that led me to this moment here. So let's get sculpting. So if you saw my last video, you saw me prototype this little creature, and since then I've created the final product. My character's name is Florence, and she's just bathing in a cup of hot cocoa. It's a little dusty actually. My whole collection was doing chili peppers, so on my last one I just drew a chili pepper on the mug, but I wasn't so thrilled with it. I didn't love how it looked. Here's the side-by-side comparison of the first prototype and then the final product. So instead, I just put a little chili pepper handle on the mug, and I need to make another one of these, so that's what we're gonna do today. So I thought about starting my business for around a year before I actually started it, but I was honestly too scared to start it for a long time. I was scared of what people would think, that they wouldn't take me seriously, that they thought it would be childish or stupid. I had just a lot of self-doubt and fear that I had to work through, and a lot of it I worked through with my therapist, who is amazing. I was also scared of all the legalities surrounding starting a business. I was worried I wasn't good enough, that people just wouldn't care. Not only scared of failing, but I was scared of being seen for, in a way, dropping that adult facade of I have it all together, I have a stable paycheck, in a way going back to kind of where I was when I was 21. My first step was honestly just creating an Instagram and a TikTok and starting to post about my creations just as a hobby. And every single time someone would comment asking if I had a shop or if they could buy things, it was on one hand very exciting, and also it just amplified the shame that I had around the fact that I couldn't get myself to open up a shop. But you just have to trust the timing of things. This is one of the first things in my chaos theory timeline. It seemed like it was a bad thing that I was waiting to start my business, but it was actually something I'm really grateful that I did. Let's go back to September of 2024. I am blissfully going off to my 1-year anniversary / belated honeymoon with my wife. And then upon returning, within a few days, I, along with a handful of other people at my company, were all laid off because of financial issues. And it happens, but just because of the series of events around it, ended up feeling pretty traumatic to me. And it was definitely a mental obstacle I had to work through. But little did I know that getting laid off would also be the major catalyst that would launch me into doing what I'm doing right now, making clay and making videos. And the way life works out sometimes, it's so unpredictable, mind-boggling. But as one does when they get laid off, you apply for unemployment. I started receiving some little benefits from the government, and I started slowly applying to other more corporate jobs within my field I used to work in, and honestly just took some time for my mental health. I was also feeling very burnt out the previous year working my job, so I kind of just took a little breather. And then I got a letter one day from the Department of Labor inviting me to apply for their self-employment assistance program. So let me tell you about this program for a little bit, because otherwise the rest of this is not gonna make sense. The Self-Employment Assistance Program, or SEAP for short, is essentially a government program available in a few states where it allows you to keep collecting your unemployment benefits, but instead of looking for a full-time job, the government says, hey, go ahead and, make your own job and we'll give you some money to sustain yourself while you get your business up and running. And I thought that was pretty darn cool, but I didn't know if they would accept me and my business. And so when I got the letter, I applied for the program, unsure if they would accept me. Like I said, at that point, I wasn't taking myself seriously. I didn't know if I could do this seriously as a business. I know there's other people that are doing it and making it work, and a lot of small artists, but it's just the mentality of you can't make money making art is so ingrained in our culture. But I decided I might as well go for it. Who knows what could happen? Worst case scenario, they reject my application and I'm just in the same spot I would be no matter if I tried or not. So I worked on my application for a couple days. I submitted it. Within a couple days, I got a message, I opened it up, and I was accepted. I got into the program, and the government was gonna basically give me $13,000 to live off of while I launch my business for the next 5 months. And it was seriously just the most amazing day. It was so exciting. And it was at this moment that I realized all the small events leading up to this point, the insignificant ones, the events that seemed seemingly super unconnected, just collided. And now I'm being thrown full force into starting a company, into establishing an LLC. Like I said, it's crazy how life can work out in unexpected ways. And this now takes us into the next part of the video, which is starting my company. All of a sudden, I was thrown from unemployed to self-employed. I started dreaming up what I wanted my shop really to be, when I wanted to launch it, what items I wanted to release. I signed up for a lot of entrepreneurial trainings online and started getting that going. And then I also signed up to meet with a business counselor and eventually met with her, which was extremely helpful and gave me a lot of insight into how to legally start my company. Afterwards, I just decided to go for it. I figured, why wait any longer? And so I established my LLC. I applied to be able to collect sales tax, and I opened a business bank account. And like my business counselor said, it is all just paperwork. It's really not that big of a deal. You fill out some forms, make sure you proofread them, hand in some money, and then it's basically done. And not to say that's easy, because I know forms and paperwork can also be incredibly daunting and hard, but it's not any harder than doing any other paperwork, I'd say. I don't know if this applies to any other states outside New York, but here you do have to publish in 2 newspapers assigned to you by the county clerk in order to fully establish your LLC. I'm currently in the process of that right now. I'm currently being published in a couple newspapers. You have to do it for 6 weeks. And again, it sounded really intimidating, and that was one of the reasons why I was nervous about setting up an LLC, because you also have to pay to be in the newspapers, and just in my head, it sounded really complicated. But again, it really wasn't that bad. I was able to do it all within a handful of emails, handed over some money, and then the newspaper is basically handling most of it for me. I don't want to go into too much of the legal details because it does vary state by state, and I also am not a professional when it comes to setting up LLCs. I just know what my personal experience was like. Being a sole proprietor is also totally great and valid. And I just, because of being in this program, doing it full time, it made sense to just set up an LLC, but don't feel like you have to do that. If that's the reason you're not doing a business, just do sole proprietor. You don't have to set up an LLC to start a business. I just want to say that. But that's the boring legal stuff. Let's talk about the exciting stuff. What happened after I set up my LLC? There are so many details and logistics that go into starting a company. First, I bought my URL and started designing my website. I got a business PO box, researched packing materials, thought about branding, created content for social media, and made my items. One of my difficulties that I had while creating my website and everything was deciding how to price my items. I obviously don't want to undersell them. I want to make sure I'm making money, but I also don't want to price them too high. I still don't know if I figured this out, but I'm trying. So I took product photos, got everything up, And then within a couple weeks, my website was live and ready for customers. And while I honestly didn't fully know what I was doing at the time, I still don't fully know what I'm doing. I just have to trust that I'm doing my best and trust the process and the timing of things to just work out as they're meant to. But none of us are gonna start out doing things perfectly. When you're first learning how to do it, first starting, like, you're gonna make mistakes. It's not gonna be perfect. And it's okay if things are like a little bit more basic at first. It doesn't have to be perfectly set up. You don't have to have all the details down. Like, you just have to start. And that's what I'm learning through this, is that you just sometimes gotta start and just trust that whatever timing it is the timing that's gonna, work for you. We can't predict how our life is gonna turn out. We also can't predict how our business is gonna turn out. Like, you just have to put our best foot forward and try and see where it takes us. Right now, I'm just making the little cheeks for my little guy. And the cool thing about creating a business, which is similar to, creating anything, is that once you create it, it is its own entity. Like, the business is a thing beyond myself. Like, yes, I'm a big part of it, but I am not solely the business, if that makes sense. For example, when I'm not working, when I am off the clock and I'm just doing my own little life and not even thinking about work, like, the business is still running. It's still live. My social media is still up there. My website's still open for orders. Like, my business never stops, even though I do. And that's pretty cool. Within my first month, I made over $1,000. And I also booked and did my first in-person event, my first market, which was a bit of a rush. It was honestly, I didn't expect I'd have anything in person that quickly, but I'm so grateful for it, and it felt too good to say no. So I said yes, and I worked my little booty away making a bunch of clay items to sell at the market. I do want to acknowledge, though, that I think I also got lucky with timing, because I launched my shop around the holiday season. People were naturally looking to spend a bit more money on gifts for friends and family. And I want to say that it's not been consistent. January has been a slow month, but that's okay. Consistency takes time to build. Now we have Florence created, and we also have her mug created. Now I just need to make the coffee, which I have a little bit of it pre-made here anyways, and essentially it's just liquid Sculpey. I use the clear one, the translucent, not the white. You could use white and then it would look like there's cream in the coffee, And then I use pastels to color it. So I'll show you how I do that. Now we have our liquid Sculpey in here, and I'm going to get my pastels. This is the brand I use. They're non-toxic. And we are going to get out the darker brown color, this one here. Take our X-Acto knife, and we are just going to do this. I don't know exactly what this is called. Make it into like a powder and just add it straight in. And then stir it up. That looks pretty good color, little coffee color. It does look kind of like creamy or milky at the moment, because before baking this, it is a white color, but it will become clear and translucent after baking. Let's put it all together. Let's add the coffee into the mug and Florence in. But first, I have a little trick to make sure Florence is secure in there. Let me show you. So you want to take just a little bit of clay. It doesn't really matter what color, because you won't see it. And then we are going to add this just like in this corner, so that it creates a nice little place that Florence can sit in there, like that, inside the mug. Otherwise, she'll probably slide down and be laying down. Add the coffee. Just like that, she is done. Here's the final the final look at her. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Obviously, I'll have to bake her, and I'll glaze with UV resin and assemble the keychain. So eventually she will look like this. Now that we've finished claying, let's do a little coffee chat about what all of this means and about chaos theory. If I've learned anything throughout all of this, it's that life is not that predictable. And it's not as stable or secure as the illusion we would like to believe it is. Even if you have a 9-to-5 job, you can be laid off, you can be fired. Like, nothing is guaranteed in life, which on one hand could freak you out. That could be a really, really intense thing. But on the other hand, it also gives you the freedom to trust the timing and the process and yourself. I think the most important thing is you have to trust yourself, because at the end of the day, there's only so much we can control. And if we try to control the uncontrollable, then that tends to be where our best friend, anxiety, likes to come in. But if we instead accept the fact that we can't control a lot of it, we can't guarantee things, we don't know what's gonna happen, and instead we let ourselves then just take life a little less seriously and have fun and experiment and explore and just try new things, I just keep telling myself, I'm good right now. I'm set for now, and I'm set for the next few months, and I don't know what's gonna happen after that, because honestly right now I'm not making enough money off of my business to sustain myself. Maybe I will in a couple months, but when my benefits run out at the end of March, I might have to get a part-time job, and I'm also okay with that. Like, businesses take time, things take time. The beginning is when the growth is the slowest, but then once it picks up, and you don't know when it's gonna pick up, and you don't know when that's gonna happen, and so you just have to keep trying. You just have to trust that all of the small things you're doing every single day, including resting and taking time to take care of yourself, is gonna create this bigger impact at the end of the day, and it's gonna create, a life that you dream of. And for me, if it takes me 2, 3, 4, 5 years to build that life, and that's okay, because I have my whole life. Like, I'm only 30 years old. I just turned 30. I'm gonna be working at least for, 30, 40 more years. So if it takes me a handful of years to then build up the job that I want, then I'll do that. I'm just gonna be trusting in the chaos theory that if I put in the time and I put in the effort and I do all of the small things, then eventually that'll accumulate and it'll set off this big reaction, and it'll create the life that I'm hoping to live, the life that'll be fulfilling and sustainable. I just have so many dreams for Time Bloom Studios. Like, right now it's all handmade goods, but I would like to eventually manufacture items, dip into more like home decor, stationery items. I have a lot of dreams for it, and dreams take time to build, and that is okay, and that is normal. And I just have to be resilient. And at the end of the day, even though I might not emotionally feel resilient, even though there's times where I question why I'm doing this and if I should just quit and if it's worth my time, I keep just showing up every day. I keep doing the action, and through that action, I am making myself more resilient. But this video is getting long, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If there's any items you want to watch me sculpt or topics you want me to talk about, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of them, please like, comment, and subscribe. I know those little actions seem very small, but as we've talked about, small actions lead to big change. And so as a very small creator right now, just starting her journey, those things really do make a huge impact on me and my journey and my growth. But for now, do something creative, do something good for yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.